Welcome to Assassin's Creed The Chain. This continues the story of Daniel Cross, whom, when we last left off with, was basically enveloped into the Animus, living the life of his ancestor, Nikolai. While that story did leave us on kind of a finite ending to the fall, The Chain continues the story where we see what happened to him in the later years. It's still very interesting. Not as interesting as the fall, but it's still very interesting. So let's get into Assassin's Creed The Chain. With the return of Daniel Cross, Abstergo and the Templars have learned many of the Brotherhood's hideouts, and they've systematically taken out the assassins in droves. This was the downfall of the assassins, and it wasn't a simple capture operation, but an all-out slaughter. It's known as the Great Purge. Between the information that Daniel has given, as well as using the Animus, Warren Vidic would know exactly how much information he needed to make these operations 100% effective. But Daniel's primary doctor, Dr. Sung, has warned that the way that they're using Daniel, well, he could very well die before they get anything worthwhile out of him. Vidic told her that Daniel is an asset to Abstergo, that he is their property, and he will decide how best he's used. She, however, is merely an employee, and as such, she can be easily replaced. While Vidic is already in the middle of a raid, he tells Sung to increase Daniel's dosages to keep him under a bit longer, while they extract more information about him and the location that they're raiding. In a near comatose state, Daniel Cross provides the information needed to allow Vidic's team to continue further into a Brotherhood stronghold, but Sung tells him that any more, and he will die. She is returning him to his room. But while this is happening inside of the Animus, Daniel is living his life through the eyes of an older Nikolai Orelov, living quietly with his son that he's calling Kenya in America. As Nikolai takes Kenya out to learn about hunting, he sees how Kenya doesn't want to kill a deer. At that moment, Daniel wakes up from the Animus violently ill. Dr. Sung tells him that everything is okay and that he's going back with them, that he's safe now. Still in a daze, Daniel asks where is he? He was just in a forest, but Sung informs him that he is at Abstergo and that he was just in the Animus for a very long time. She begins checking Daniel's condition, and he begins to ask who is she? She introduces herself as his physician while he was engaged in the Animus program. He was already inside of the Animus when she was assigned, so they didn't get to properly meet. The good news is that he doesn't appear to have any neurological damage, but she won't be taking any chances allowing him back into the Animus anytime soon. Daniel then asks how long has it been, and Sun tells him that it's just been over a year. It is now 2002. Now come on, we're gonna get you cleaned up, and there's something I'd like you to see. Daniel gets dressed following Sung out, and he notices everyone inside of Abstergo is staring at him, and in some ways, cheering for him. Sung tells him that for the last 14 months, he's been living through the memories of his grandfather, Nikolai Orelov, or as Nikolai called him, Kenya. Everyone here looks at Daniel as a hero for his work on taking down the Assassin Brotherhood. And while Daniel tries to process everything from being under for so long, Sung leaves Daniel to his room, and she says that she understands that he may have enjoyed his life in the Animus, but she can't risk his health any longer. So for now, he'll need to be here, living his own life for a while. As Sung leaves, Daniel sits down to get accustomed to this life, but the bleed effects from being in the Animus for so long begin to take effect, and he sees his entire room covered in blood, and he begins to panic. Back in the days of Kenya and Nikolai, Kenya is sitting with his father as they eat, and Nikolai tells him not to worry about earlier, that they will train with some fence posts. Not as tasty as venison, but it's an easy hunt. Kenya asks if they're always going to live out here, away from people. But Nikolai says that it's much safer for them this way. They live by their own rules and they answer to no one. Kenya then asks what about his mother? And Nikolai sighs, telling him that his mother and sister, they never lived here. And he knows that. Nikolai grabs a bottle from the shelf and he looks at the picture of his wife and daughter, telling Kenya that if he is finished, go outside and wash the dishes. Kenya doesn't argue and takes the dirty dishes outside to the well to be washed, and then is approached by an older man asking if his father is around. Hearing the voice, Nikolai steps out asking what's going on, and the portly man yells, "Nikolai, it's been such a long time, brother. How did you end up in a place like this?" Nikolai says that they're not brothers, Sergei. Sergei fixes his coat, telling him, "I disagree, and so does the mentor. To leave one's family in the midst of a crisis, without so much as a word, well, it's nothing that can't be mended, yes? Now you'll have to come back with me." Nikolai tells Sergei that he's not going anywhere, His service to the Brotherhood is finished. His life is now here with his son. Sergei grabs Kenya by the arm. Surely you don't mean this. You've seen things that no other man alive has seen, been given messages intended for the Order that must not fall into the hands of our enemies. Don't be selfish, Nikolai, and don't be greedy. You've taken property from us. And did you not think that we knew that you escaped Russia? And perhaps that you had taken something? Sergei pulls out a knife, pointing it to Kenya's face, but before he could do anything, Nikolai grabs the frying pan, knocking the knife out of Sergei's hands and tackling him to the ground. Sergei struggles, and Nikolai wraps his hands around Sergei's throat and begins to squeeze, waiting until finally, Sergei's arms fall to the ground. Nikolai looks over at Kenya, stating that he wished this day would never come, but they must prepare themselves. More men are coming. Back in the present day, Dr. Sung is getting ready to head home for the night when Daniel grabs her from behind, sweating. I need your help. I need to go back, Hunter. I'm going crazy without the Animus. Dr. Sung drops her things startled, telling him that he shouldn't scare her like that. He already knows that she can't let him do that there's too much risk and that he needs some sleep. Daniel helps Sung pick up her things, stating, right, sure. And as she leaves, Daniel reveals that he has taken the keycard from her. Now he has access to the Animus once more. He sneaks back in, passing by the machines when he notices one is occupied by Bellamy, one of the men who took him in when he rose the ranks of the Brotherhood. Daniel shakes his head, continuing on to the empty machine, and begins to set himself up when he hears faint laughter. He asks if anyone's there, and with no answer, he lays back down, diving back into his memories. This time, Daniel goes back a little further, when Nikolai and his family were still together. However, this was the late 1919s, maybe early 1920s, during America's Red Scare. While Nikolai and the other Russian immigrants spent their time in the bars, this particular bar was subject to the Palmer raids and was attacked by American agents. The agents were vicious in their raids, and Nikolai acted quickly to protect his family. He took out the agents, grabbed his wife Anna and daughter Neda, and infant son Kenya, and made his escape. However, Nikolai didn't get far as he ran into a group of agents storming the back and ended up falling out a window with only the infant Kenya. Seeing the agent that he fell with dead, Nikolai turned back up to the window to see Anna and Neda arrested. Nikolai got back to his feet, trying to rescue them, but by the time he made it to the front, there were simply too many agents, and all he could do was watch his wife and daughter be taken away. Later, after Nikolai told the story of how he had been separated from Anna and Neda, Kenya asks if the man earlier is the one who took them away. Nikolai tells him no, but he worked with those who did. And many years ago, he took something from them, and now they're trying to get it back. Kenya asks, when they come, will his father kill them as well? Nikolai takes a moment and looks back at Kenya, telling him, now, you will. But before Daniel could go further in this memory, he's taken out of the Animus by Dr. Sung, telling him that she is disappointed in him, that she thought they were building trust. Daniel shakes his head, telling her that he's sorry. He just needed to feel grounded. He isn't hurting himself, is he? She says, lucky for him, the thing isn't even turned on. Realizing that it's just more of the bleed effect, Daniel sits up, asking what happened to Nikolai's wife and daughter, and Sung states that the files show that they were deported during the Palmer raids. However, there isn't anything more on the family. They weren't considered to be assassin threats, so they didn't keep tabs on them, at least not in her files. Daniel gets up, stating that he doesn't remember his family at all. He never got to know his parents. It's like the memories of the Orlovs are the closest thing he has to family. Sung tells him that what they did to him was horrible, but she also knows that Abstergo isn't full of evil people. Dr. Vidic is trying to do what's best for a better world, and Vidic cares about Daniel. She has seen the way that he swells with pride when he talks about Daniel Cross, and she cares about him as well. He does have family right here in Abstergo. Daniel laughs. Thanks. She then asks for her keycard back. Now back in the past, Nikolai begins to train Kenya for when the men return, but his methods could be considered rash for the inexperienced boy. Nikolai hands his son a knife, telling him to attack, and as Kenya tries to muster up the courage to attack his own father, Nikolai slaps him to the ground, telling him to get up and try again. Kenya does, but the results are the same, each with a harsher punishment than before. Kenya tries once more as he cries, unsure of what his father is expecting, but Nikolai grabs and disarms his boy, telling him that he's an old man now and he can still swat him away like a fly. You have failed. You will sleep outside. Soon the snow begins to fall as the sun sets, and as Kenya sits outside alone, Nikolai walks out of the house with a plate of food, tossing it to the ground. Kenya says that he's sorry, but he tried, and Nikolai just stares at him, going back inside. As the days pass, Kenya attempts to attack when he has the chance, but a seasoned assassin like Nikolai counters every advance. But still, Kenya tries, telling himself that he isn't scared, that he isn't weak, that he will be the man that his father is trying to make him become. Back in the current times, Daniel is climbing the ranks within Abstergo, now training the new recruits for the Templars, telling them how the Brotherhood is indeed a family of wolves, opportunistic, savage, anarchists. He will be the one to teach them how to defeat them, how to wipe them out, so that they may have a better future. Once his meeting is over, Dr. Sung waits outside, stating that he missed their weekly session, and Daniel laughs, telling him that he completely forgot. They keep sending him new recruits to train. Maybe they can reschedule. Sung asks how are the bleeding effects. Daniel tells her that he's managing. He slips in and out, but the new meds are helping. Right now, he needs to go check on something that they've been working on in R&D. Maybe she could come with. As they arrive at the weapons facility, the scientist says that they've been working on what he sent over. He should try it on and see if he likes it. So Daniel picks up the bracer, holding it up, and a dagger springs out of the wrist. The scientist asks, how is it? Daniel tells him that the hidden blade is perfect. Meanwhile, back in time with Kenya, he continues to live outside, learning to hunt and fend for himself. When he hears the crushing of snow, and he puts out his fire, quickly climbing a tree and waiting. Nikolai walks over to the makeshift hut and fire, and he looks around. He doesn't see his boy, and he continues on. Kenya sticks to the trees, following Nikolai like a hunter hunting his prey, until finally he attacks. The two struggle at first, but Kenya grabs his knife, holding it to Nikolai's throat. And Nikolai tells him that he must not flinch in the face of death. He must be ready to take a life without hesitation, even his own. If you can kill me, you can kill your enemies. Be strong. Do it! Do it, quick! Kenya stares, trembling. He pushes the knife against his father's throat, and he begins to draw blood. And Nikolai stops him. Good! I knew you were strong! Back with Daniel. He continues his training, but as he works out, a man in a black suit walks up. Pardon, the man says, wondering if Daniel would go with him. He questions it for a minute, but eventually follows the man. They go into a boardroom where Dr. Vidic welcomes him, stating that they are so proud of the work that he is doing, and they have a little business trip lined up for him. But while Daniel learns the details, we find out in the past that the moment that Nikolai spoke of came to pass as the men arrived to make their move, blowing up the small cabin. Off in the distance, Nikolai and Kenya watch, and Nikolai says that they are not honorable men, that they are killers, that if Nikolai and his boy are captured, they will be used and thrown away. But should anything go wrong, Kenya, you must run. Stay hidden, because they will never stop coming for you. As the two begin to leave, Nikolai stops Kenya, telling him that his mother and sister, I loved them very much, and for 2 years I tried to find them, but I never was able to. Kenya says that it's possible then. And Nikolai kneels down, telling him that he learned that the ship that took them brought them back to Russia, and that many on it fell ill. That many didn't survive the trip, and he just wanted him to know. He tried. Soon the men from the Bureau make their way up the mountain in search of Nikolai, but as they find their camp, they begin to spread out looking. As one agent turns, he's shot in the head, and then 2 more are stabbed by Nikolai. Another group begins to open fire with their pistols, managing to hit Nikolai in the leg. And once Nikolai is down, he decides it's best to end things with his fist. The two go back and forth, hitting each other, but as Nikolai is managing to show his age, the man is stabbed in the back. And Kenya stands there, silent, driving the dagger in deeper. The man falls and he helps his father up, and the two walk away. In the present day, Daniel is sent on a mission to locate the hidden library of Ivan the Terrible under Moscow's Bolshoi Theater. Using what he learned from the Brotherhood, Daniel quickly makes his way into the sewers under the theaters, finding the hidden entrance. He steps into the library, and a voice calls out asking where is Peter, and a dagger springs out of Daniel's wrist. The man declares, whoa, 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 safe in peace, safety in peace. Daniel tells him that he's sorry, he was just startled, and the man says it's cool. Peter was supposed to relieve him a few weeks ago, but I guess you're the replacement. Daniel begins to look around. Yeah, it's an honor to be stationed here. I was told the priority is to protect the Prophet's Codex. The man says for sure he'll show him where it's at. The two go deeper into the library, where the man turns a corner, showing the Prophet's Codex to Daniel. everything that Ezio brought back from his travels, everything that he kept or thought about or bothered to write down. At that moment, the bleed effect, it takes hold, and Daniel watches as Nikolai and Kenya make their escape. They cross a chasm, and as Nikolai gets ready to jump and join his boy, he's shot in the leg as the leader of the agents yells for him to stay down. The man begins to beat Nikolai with the butt of his rifle, asking where is his son, and Nikolai coughs, laughing. "The boy is worth 10 of your men. You'll never catch him." The man then calls out to Kenya, asking if he wants to see his sister again. If he does, he'll come out. Nikolai states that the man lies, but the man explains that they arranged for her deportation and that of his wife, that Nikolai was meant to be with them, but his selfishness prevented that, and the Brotherhood looks after its own. Kenya steps out into the opening asking if it's true, and Nikolai tells him not to believe it. "Be strong, Kenya!" Kenya stares, crying, knowing what that comment means. He lines his rifle up and he aims, taking the shot, shooting through Nikolai into the man. In the present, Daniel looks at the Prophet's Codex, reading what he could, seeing the name Desmond stand out. He relays the information back to Vidic, who tells him good work. They cross-reference this with their database and see what comes up. "Well done, son." Daniel then closes the box, telling him that the library's clear. Send a cleanup crew in the ready. Cross out. But for Kenya, he makes his way to his father's side, taking his hidden blade and fitting it on himself. As he gets ready, he takes the hood, draping it over his head, leaving behind everything that he knew. I hope you guys enjoyed today's comic. We have quite a few Assassin's Creed comics and topics to be covering still here on the channel as we continue to dive into Final Fantasy XIV lore, Sonic, comic books, and stuff like that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time right here at Eligible Monster.